All right, everybody worldwide, you're now tuned into Motivation and Confidence, where we help you do your daily best. And I'm your host, Tom Danger. Back this week with a new episode. And this week we're going to talk about listening to your elders. I remember growing up, I used to work with my dad on an oil truck. And the days were long, the work was hard. But being that we didn't live in the same house, looking back, I cherish those moments of being with my dad because we were basically on the truck for at least 10 to 12 hours a day, and it gave me the opportunity to ask whatever questions that I wanted to ask about life and get an answer. And one thing that I respect most about my dad is that he doesn't lie to me. Or at least from what I know, he has never lied to me. He's always been truthful, whether it was good, bad, or ugly. And I would just ask him like random things about women and, money and handling your business, because him and my mom were divorced at the time. So I think I felt as if I could ask certain questions more freely, like sort of, I don't want to get too much of his business, but how do you fall for another woman, or what was going through your mind when you did this, or how do you feel when you made this amount of money, and what was it like when you didn't have money, and what was it like when you made mistakes in a relationship. And he would just always keep it 100 with me, and I thank him so much for that. I think that now I'm not sure whether or not people have an elder to talk to, but if you don't, I would advise you to get one, right? And it doesn't have to be a family member. It's just a person who is older than you and more experienced in life. Somewhere that you can bounce your ideas off of and really just get some insight as to what you're getting yourself into, because that information is invaluable. I remember when I first got my wife pregnant with my son, and we were riding the oil truck, and I think in between stops, I would always take a nap. And when I woke up, when we got to the next stop, he just looked at me and said, "Nika's pregnant, isn't she?" And I didn't tell him for some reason. I don't know why I was scared, but she was. And I don't even know where these weird things come from with older people, but it's just like they know. They know, like they can see certain things in the distance before we can see it, where we may hide certain information or we're afraid to talk about it. And my grandmother would always say, like, you can't cry over spilled milk, and that's a weird way of saying, like, you can't really change something that's already done. You just got to move on from it. And again, that's something else that I just admire so much. I had a bunch of elders, in addition to my dad, like my dad, my mom, my grandmother, my grandfather, all shared bits of wisdom with me. And at times I would say, like I suck my teeth. I don't want to hear that. Like, old people know what they're talking about. But then for the most part, I would listen to what they had to say because, one, I was curious. And then two, I think I had a little bit of fear within me, not knowing what to expect. So it's sort of like if I had just that little bit of information that could give me the edge on a particular situation, I would listen. And then, being that the majority of my family is from the South, they just had a way with words and like these little sayings, and, it just made things stick. Like, one of my uncles would always say something, it sounds kind of foolish, but he would always say, "Don't give them too much or it goes to their head," And for years, I didn't really understand what that meant. It was just a short way of saying, if you give a person too much attention, it may overinflate them and it makes them think that they're bigger of themselves than what they actually are. Now, he mostly would say that towards women in the street and giving compliments, but I think it can be applied in any sense of how you show your gratitude toward people. People may take it and twist it a different way, you know. Or, like my dad would say things like, a bird in the hand beats two in the bush. You know, I said, like, I would listen to things like that, and I'm saying, like, well, what does that mean exactly, you know? And then he tried to break it down for me, just like, you know, it's better to have one thing solid than to have two things hiding, you know, or one hand washes the other, two hands wash the face. Just these, like, aphorisms, man, it would just fly right over my head, but I always thought it was so cool, to the point to where now with my kids, I probably drive them crazy because they say, why are you always talking riddles? And I don't think I'm talking in riddles. I think that's just from years of listening to my elders talk and giving me insight and knowledge into life about how to handle things and how to deal with things. And even if it's not someone from within your family that you can talk to, I used to talk to another gentleman who was like a business colleague of mine. And although we did good business together, he would always just be a sounding board. And when I would go through things, I could just go and talk to him and chop it up. And he would just keep it 100 with me. Like if I was messing up, he'd be like, yo, you out your mind. Or like if I explain the situation, he'd be like, nah, you got it good. So, you know, you need to chill out. So that's my advice this week. Real short and simple. Get you an elder if you don't already have one. Get as much information as you can for them. Listen to as many of those stories as possible. And then see if it helps you in your decision making. All right. And as always, like, subscribe, and share. If there's someone or something that you'd like for us to talk about, we're sort of rebranding ourselves. You can now go to tomdanger.com, TOMDANGER.com, and join the mailing list. If you join the mailing list on the website, you'll get a free sticker. I'll get that out to you. And you'll also be entered for a advanced copy of the ebook, 7 Steps, How to Start and Finish Your Ideas. Just about done. So I'm excited about that. And as always, you're listening to Motivation and Confidence, where we help you do your daily best.